Oh, there's fish down there. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that tank. Look at that. Oh, what a beauty. That's what I'm talking about. He wasn't even hooked. Well, thank you everyone for coming. My name is Nate Smead. I don't recognize too many of you. I know a few people there, but I'm happy that you came. I always like to meet new people. I'm just curious, before I get started, is there anyone that's new to ice fishing here? Perfect. And anybody new that hasn't ever used or seen a flasher before?
I just got one yesterday.
Okay. Great. So as I said, my name is Nate Smead. I grew up in southern Vermont and in Westminster, and I grew up in front of a stream. When I was 5 years old, my cousin taught me how to put a worm on a hook, and for the next 10 years, that's all I knew was brook trout fishing, and I did it a lot. But that was my whole world. I didn't know anything beyond that. And as I got older and could drive, I used to drive down the Connecticut River and fish for bass and whatever I could catch. I didn't get into ice fishing until 6 years ago. And it was a friend of mine that introduced me to it. For all those years, I had no idea. I mean, I knew people ice fish, but I just had no clue. I didn't know where to start. And it wasn't until someone came and showed me the ropes that I got into it. And once I did it, I was hooked. But you know, I wouldn't have ever known about it if someone didn't share their knowledge with me. So that's why I'm happy to be here and share what I've learned. I certainly don't stand here and claim to be, you know, all-knowing and have all the answers. When I was a kid, I spent so much time fishing that my father would kind of give me a hard time. And why do you fish so much? He wasn't really a fisherman, and I used to tell him that I was going to be a professional fisherman someday, so I was practicing for my career, and that I needed to do that, and that was my excuse. And 25 years later, I'm still using that excuse. I'm not a professional. I'm just a regular, everyday Joe. I go to work 5 days a week, but and I work for my father now. So I still use that excuse, and I'm out there fishing anytime I can, and probably sometimes a little bit too much. But one thing that I want to briefly speak about before we get it really into it is stewardship and stereotypes. Is everyone familiar with the Berlin Pond battle? That's something that I became passionate about, and the reason why is because I watched the people that are trying to close it down and are continuing right now to close it down, and they use stereotypes for fishermen, anglers, that we're a bunch of trashy people. We ruin the environment. We don't care about the environment, and I don't think that's true. Now, there is a very small minority that will leave their trash on the ice. Most of us, when we see it, will pick it up. But that's something I want to stress. You know, the stewardship and the image that our community, because no matter what kind of ice fishing you do, whether you like to tip up fish or whether you like to run around hole hop and panfish, we're a brotherhood, we're a sisterhood, and we need to all, you know, think about how we're portraying what we do to the public, because very few people actually ice fish. I mean, we're a minority. So that's something that is important to me, and they gave me the floor and I can say whatever I want. So I just want to start out with that. Think about that. Think about when other people are viewing you, people that are there skating, you know, walking their dogs, what image are you putting out? And I think for the most part in Vermont, we are very, very fortunate to have a great community of anglers. And you know, I meet people all the time on the ice, and I think that, I don't think we have big problems, put it that way. But it's just something I'd like to touch on, something to keep in mind. I also want to say that there's all different shapes and sizes of fishing, and this is my style, this is what I love, I'm passionate about it, but I would never put down anyone else for a different way that they want to fish. If someone likes to tip up fish, that's great. Like I said, we're all a brotherhood, we're all a sisterhood. On social media, I see it a lot, you know, infighting, people arguing with each other. You know, today on one of the sites, there was a guy making fun of people that use electronics, saying you're not a sportsman because you use electronics. That stuff is not good for what we do. So whether you like to catch trout with tip-ups, whether you are a pike guy, whether you're a walleye guy, a panfish guy, I don't care. We're all anglers, we're all a brotherhood, we're all a sisterhood, and we need to take care of each other. There's people out there that would shut it down and end hunting and fishing for everyone. So there's always battles going on, and you know, I encourage you, when you have an opportunity to let your voice be heard, speak up. Speak up for the whole community. Basically what I'm talking about is the modern age of ice fishing. Everyone's seen the clam flip over shanties. Back in the day, the only real option there was, you know, to build a hard side shanty, and you'd pull it out, and once you had it out there, you're pretty much set up your base camp for the year, and you don't really have much mobility. The modern age is all about mobility, and when we're talking about pan fishing specifically, you've got to be mobile. So all of the products that are on the market now are geared towards streamlining what you do, making so you can move. You've got to be able to move. I see a lot of people out on, you know, I run into them on the lake and say, how you doing? They say, not good, you know, I haven't caught a fish all day. But they've been in the same spot since they got there, because they've set up their base camp, they've got their, you know, cookware out, they've got stuff spread out, and they really can't move. Even though they probably know they should, they can't. So this modern age is all about mobility. They've got, if you haven't seen them, they've got them out front. But it's a flip over shack. They have all different shapes and sizes, but the one I got is actually the blue one out front, and it's designed, you don't have to extend the arms. Some of them you've got to extend, but I like that feature of that Clam Kenai Pro. You just pull up, you drill a hole, you pull up, flip it over, and you're fishing. So you can just hop from hole to hole to hole. When we fish, going for panfish, it's not uncommon to drill 100 holes in a day. If you want to catch fish, be prepared to move and drill and drill and drill. It's just the way it is. Panfish move around. I like to fish the weeds, but within the weeds, there's certain spots that are going to produce more than others. How many of you have been sitting there fishing, you can't catch a fish, but your buddy is 4 feet away from you and he's pulling them out left and right? How many have had that happen? I'm sure you all have. When you're in the weeds, I can tell you why. Because if you're able to see below the ice, these weed beds, these thick weed beds, underneath them, the fish have highways going through them. And there's just areas that they go through, and you can be 2 feet off and you're not going to catch a fish all day. You move over, you're going to be pounding them. I was fishing a tournament last year, and I fished with a camera a lot in a tournament. I had a camera this day, and I could see fish on the camera, and they were just swimming by a steady stream, and they were about 4 feet away from me, and I wasn't getting anything. So I stood up, I drilled, I just literally moved from here to here, drilled a hole, moved over, and started catching fish. Now, if you don't have the benefit of using a camera, what do? You drill a lot of holes and you just fish them. And when you find a hole, you remember which one. And, you know, fish it. You'll catch a few, they might dry up, move to another one, but come back to that hole, because I guarantee you there's a reason why you were catching a fish there. And it will continue throughout the day. I want to talk about a flasher, because of all the tools that I've, you know, and as over the last 6 years, there's been, every year, you know, I accumulate more stuff. This leads me to another point. The nice thing about ice fishing, you can have the top of the line gear across the board, and you don't have to spend $30,000. If you want to go out and bass fish, how much is a bass boat? 30, 40, 50,000. But you can, ice fishing really opens it up for anybody. Now, I'm not saying you go out and you're going to buy everything in one day, but you know, if you accumulate a little bit each year. So over the years, I've kind of added stuff every year. And when I got a flasher, that was the biggest game changer in my life as far as fishing. Now, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but there's a demo mode here. And I understand that there's several of you that have never seen them, never used one, don't understand how they work. That's the case. So what this is a sonar unit. This is the transducer. You put it down the hole, you set it for the depth of the ice. We haven't had much ice this year, so you can see other years this stopper is way up here and it's down, that's what we like, but unfortunately this year it's not. But you put this transducer down the hole so it's just below the ice. And you turn it on. What it shows you, this dial, I'm going to put it on demo mode. Some of you aren't going to be able to see this, but feel free to come up afterwards and we'll run it so you can see it up close. So this is the water column. This is the top of the ice. All the way down here, this is the bottom. Right here is a mark, that's a fish. This is your jig going down. You'll be able to see your jig. Now on this unit, it'll give a digital readout of your depth. So instantly you know you're in 20 feet. Sometimes I use it just going to hole just to check the depth contours. 20, 19, 18. We're looking for 17 feet of water on that particular day. You find it and then you fish it. You can see here, this just actually switched into a split screen where this is a zoom down on the bottom. Yeah, we just caught a fish. It'll run through again. So you see your jig going down. You can see the fish right here as it comes down. Now this doesn't switch to zoom mode automatically. It's just doing that in the demo mode, but you can put it in a zoom mode where this half shows the whole water column. It's going to switch here in a second. And then this half will show the bottom 6 feet. There it goes. So now you got, this is the whole water column, this is just the bottom, so you can lock in. When you're fishing perch especially, that's a good feature, because perch generally are going to be down at the bottom. Can you see that? When you use one, I can't describe to you what it feels like, but I'm telling you right now, when you use it, you're going to be hooked the first time you use it, and you're going to want one. And once you get one, you'll never leave home without it. And if you start driving to go fishing, and for some reason you forgot your flasher and you're 45 minutes down the road, you're going to turn around and go home and get it. Anyone will tell you that. I've never met a person with a flasher that said they didn't like it. It doesn't matter what brand you get. They're all good. I like Vexilar, but I started with a Markham. Then they, you know, Humminbird and Lowrance makes the LED. It's a little bit different. I prefer the flasher as opposed to the LED crystal display, but it doesn't matter what you get. It's going to help you catch more fish. How many days have you been out there jigging, not getting a bite, and you've said, well, they're just not biting today? You don't really know. I used to spend a lot of time jigging holes where I said, there's got to be fish down there, but I'd never get a bite. Well, now I know. When I put it in a hole, most of the time I know before I even put my line down. The one time you will not know is when you're fishing perch and they're on the bottom, they'll be they'll blend in with the bottom. So you won't realize it until you start to drop your jig, and then you'll see the fish come up. Any of you have seen a YouTube video that I posted online a couple years ago featuring this? I show it. Now in the video it's flashing. Obviously you can see with your eyes it's not flashing, that's the frame rate, but you can see the fish. You don't see anything, but then the jig's coming down and all of a sudden, boom, they're there. Where this really shines is when you have suspended fish. And you're going to find that more with crappie and bluegills. But perch will suspend too. In fact, the first time I ever fished Berlin Pond, I always just fished the bottom. And I was down there on the bottom, I was in 58 feet of water, and I saw a huge mark way up here on top, 10 feet below the ice. And I kind of ignored it, but then 10 minutes later I saw it again, and I says, oh, that's a fish. So I reeled up, and it was a jumbo perch. 10 feet below the ice and 60 feet of water. Without one of these units, you would never know that. So I can't stress this enough. If you've ever questioned whether you could use one or get one, you know, find a way to fit it in your budget, put away a few dollars every week and get one. It'll change your fishing life and you'll never go without it.